I like to think that most people have that one game that they experienced that really affected them on an intimate level, and I like to think that they keep that memory for themselves. At least I did with The Last of Us. When I played through it, it was a very personal time for me. The most compelling games are the ones that we clutch tightly to ourselves and think about during the dark hours of the night. The characters that we love, the stories that impact us on a deeply private level, the relationships that rise and fall, and of course the gameplay that satisfies us. Those are the reasons I love games. The Last of Us is a story about people and highlights the deception and treachery that can exist in humans when bad things happen. It shows us that the world is not a good place, but the people in it can be. It's a story about how cruelness, hope, and attachment can live side by side. The conclusion to The Last of Us, something that I will not discuss here, was as perfect as an ending to a game could be. Now with the sequel announced, I want to present an argument for why The Last of Us should have a sequel and why it should not.
I'll walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I fear no evil because I'm blind to it all.
The Last of Us launched at the end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle and 6 months before the PlayStation 4 launched. It was a celebration, only fitting that the best PlayStation 3 game released as a parting gift for Sony fans. Unsurprisingly, its incredible story and narrative stood side by side with some of the most satisfying third-person survival gameplay around. Not because the gameplay was anything revolutionary, most of the best parts were small design decisions. How you had to craft items on the fly in real time, how the difficulty curve was properly measured in line with the story, and how the game limited your available resources so that when you defeated an enemy, it felt so damn good because of how hopeless you often felt. A sequel would allow us to relive that sense of enthrallment with the game. These days, I find myself throwing away game after game because I'm not fully engaged. I believe a landmark game transports you into another place entirely. Hold out your hand. How many games can you count on your fingers that take you to this special place? For me, it's only The Last of Us in recent memory. A sequel would also tidy up a few plot points that were left floating in the air. What happens to Joel and Ellie? Does Ellie really believe Joel? What will happen to the cure and the future of humanity? How much are those answers worth to you? A better question, are they necessary? A sequel would allow Naughty Dog to tie all of that together and give us those answers, which may lead to a more satisfying and rounded experience of The Last of Us. Creative director Neil Druckmann is quoted as saying, "Like many of you, we have a deep love for the world of The Last of Us and its characters, and while a sequel may have seemed like a foregone conclusion, that wasn't the case. We knew that it needed to be a story worth telling, and perhaps more importantly, a story worthy of Joel and Ellie. After spending years on different ideas and almost giving up, we finally uncovered a story that felt special, a story that evolved into an epic journey." The relationship between Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us is a special and fragile one. The player grows with the characters and experiences their growth of their relationship from start to finish. A sequel jeopardizes our affinity with that relationship by diluting the game as it exists in our memories. Even if you don't play a game sequel, it does affect how you remember the games you play. The idea of sequels is to monetize the nostalgia and fondness that gamers hold on to of their favorite games, and then build another and another until that special memory is forgotten in place of commercialism. The story of The Last of Us was self-contained and needs no further development. The main reason being that the conclusion of the game does several things. First, it brings the story of the game full circle and answers most of the unnerving questions that the player may have. Secondly, and most importantly, it leaves that small sense of question inside our minds. Leaving the final moments of the game up to our interpretation is the most beautiful way that the story could have ended, allowing us to claim the right to our own judgment to where the story of Joel and Ellie will head. The best stories simply peer into the smallest window of a character's life and don't share everything. Joel and Ellie will go on to lead their lives, and that unknown is something that really eats at us in a good way. It amplifies the feeling that these aren't video game characters. They are people caught up in a circumstance out of their control and dealing with it the best they can. Do we have the privilege of seeing the aftermath of their relationship play out for years to come? Maybe it's best that we leave that to our imagination and hold on to the gem that we don't get to see. We got a tiny glimpse into the broader picture of The Last of Us, and by Naughty Dog leaving the game as is, allows us to latch on to that believability. Not every game can achieve the success of The Last of Us. Hell, very few can. By not having a sequel, The Last of Us would have been a conclusive story worthy of remembering. But getting the chance to participate in that world again makes me very, very excited. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, by all means, hit the thumbs up button. And if you enjoyed our format, subscribe to this channel. And have a kick-ass day, guys. We'll see you next time.